Is everybody able to hear me? Cool. So let's get started then. So to begin with, we're going to start with the SU session from today onwards. We'll try to complete the entire session in over a period of the next 4 weeks. And we've divided it into parts. We have the introduction session, which will be today. Then we'll have the on-page and HTML session next week. The week after, we'll do the technical session and off-page. And then in the last week, we'll cover the different tools that we use in SEO as well as schema. Now, with respect to the introduction in today's session, okay, we'll basically in this particular presentation, what we'll be covering is what are search engines, what is the process of indexing and crawling, and how does someone optimize their crawl budget for a particular given website or for their own website. Now, how many of you understand, or if I have to ask you, what as per you is SEO? What is it that you know about SEO? What is it that you heard about SEO? Reachable to? That's right, Abhishek. Priyanka, you would make it reachable to? Okay, Avinash. Yes, but for both Priyanka and Avinash, before you make your website reachable to the audience, who are you making it reachable to? Exactly. That's right. So, for Priyanka, before the target audience, so before your website gets discovered by users or by customers or by a layman or someone who's looking for information online, before you make it available to users, you obviously have to make it available and discovered by search engines. Right? Only then is the search engine going to rank your website for a particular set of queries. Correct? So first your website needs to be discovered by search engines and then it will become available or it will be discovered by users. Cool. Now, if I have to really talk about search engines, right? So obviously for now or at this point in time, all of us know that Google is one of the most important search engines, right? From amongst all of you, do you use any other search engines other than Google? Is there any other search engine that you make use of other than Google? So I think majority of us use Google, and that's primarily because of how dominant Google is in search today. And somebody who said Safari, Abhishek, Safari is a browser. It's a web browser, it's not a search engine. So from the major search engines, you've got Google, you've got Yahoo, Bing, you've got Yandex, you've got Baidu, you've got Naver. AOL is one of the search engines. Just Dial again. Somebody also said Just Dial. Akash, Just Dial is not a search engine. Search engine. Just Dial is a listing directory. No problem. Yeah. So, like I said, majority of us use Google, and even if I have to talk about it from a search perspective, from a SEO perspective, so Google is the most dominant search engine. So, if I have to explain that to you in terms of numbers, right? So, say for example, there is a certain amount of traffic that's coming to website ABC. Now, organic traffic, not the website or the overall traffic. We are talking about organic traffic, traffic that comes in from search engines. Right? From that 10,000 of organic traffic that's coming to a website, Google will contribute to at least 9,500. That's the kind of contribution and dominance that Google has in search. The remaining 5% of traffic is something that will be contributed by Bing, AOL, Yandex, or Yahoo, and all of these other small search engines, right? So that's the kind of dominance that Google has. Now, of course, while in the year 1994, Yahoo came into existence, then you had a couple of other search engines also, like Excite, Lycos, InfoSeek. Mimmy, are you able to hear me now? Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Yeah, so I was saying that, of course, while Yahoo came into existence, and then there were other search engines like Excite, InfoSeek, Alta Vista, and all of these that came into being. 1998, which was exactly 20 years before, is when Google came into existence. Now, does anybody know who got Google into existence? Does anybody know that? Abhishek, that's correct. That's one of the persons. Who else? So this question is out for all of you. Who do you think got Google into existence? Larry Page Akash, that's right. And who's the other person? Who's the second person? That's correct. That's correct. Somil and yeah, Somil, that's right. Okay. So Larry Page and Sergey Brin, these were PhD students when they actually got Google into existence, and that was the year 1998. Now, when came into existence, if you see on the screen, this is the beta version, and this is how Google looked like at that point in time. Of course, in the last 20 years, it has advanced, and of course, it looks much different. The kind of results it gives today are much more advanced. Also, there are certain changes in the algorithm that keep happening on a regular basis to improve user experience, to give users the best results that Google can, right? So, of course, the interface of Google has changed over a period of time. Now, when we started with Google, right, in the year 1998, of course, the kind of results or the kind of memory, the kind of servers Google was using at that point in time was very, very limited. And if you talk about it today, it's got 200 plus servers, and the amount of data that Google actually stores now is humongous. So it's crazy amount of data that Google has over its servers, and that's primarily because so many new websites come up each and every day, right? And what Google is doing is it's basically crawling the entire web all the time to ensure that it has information about the best websites. It's picking up information from the most relevant websites to obviously meet the end objective, which is to give the best user experience to users like you and me, right? So today Google has obviously 200 plus servers, and that's the amount or that's the kind of information that Google saves. Now, if we have to talk about the most primary functions or the most primary actions that the Google search engine does, right? So the three most primary actions that Google search engine takes into consideration are crawling, indexing, and ranking. We'll obviously go to each of them, but before that, I would want to tell you the most fundamental or the most basic of SEO, right? So is everybody able to see this Mumbai suburban rail network here? Is everybody able to see this? Now, I'm sure all of you have traveled by train. Sonam, is this better? Have done that already. No problems. Okay, so has everybody traveled by the suburban train, rather the normal local train in Bombay? Your Western Line or your Harbour Line or Central Line or Taniwashi Harbour Line? Okay. Now, I'm sure all of you must know and must be aware that certain stations that are a overlap between different lines, right? So, for example, Dadar. Okay. Dadar is an overlap between Central and Western Line. Everybody knows this. Similarly, there are some other stations also like Kurla, which again overlap on Harbour Line and Western Line. Right? So the point that I'm trying to drive home here is that, just like the suburban rail network where you have different trains that connect different stations, right? So from one station you reach the other station on a particular rail network that could be Western, Central, or Harbour. That's okay, Vishwani. You don't really need to know or rather be able to read the stations. This is only a presentation to understand an important point about the search engines. So even if you're not able to read the stations, it should be okay. So the point that I'm trying to drive here is that the other is here where I've kept my cursor. It's here on the green line if you're able to see. So yeah, the point that I'm trying to make here is the most basic fundamental of search engines is that it follows links. Okay, it crawls the entire world wide web, but that is by links. So just like this rail network that you have in front of you, where you reach a particular station and then you basically move to another station to a particular rail network. Like on the Western Line, if you're in Bandra and if you're moving towards Churchgate, the next station that you're going to get off or that you're going to reach is going to be Mahi. Like that, even on the World Wide Web, for the search engines, if the search engine is on a website ABC, okay, it is going to crawl all the pages on ABC. Now, if ABC has a link to another website, okay, the search engine will obviously crawl that and reach the another website. That's how search engines work. Search engine crawlers follow links to crawl the entire World Wide Web. That's something that we need to remember, and that's the most basic fundamental of SEO. Any questions so far, or can we proceed? Any questions, guys? Okay, so let's proceed in that case. So now let's look at the first procedure of the search engines, which is crawling, right? So is everybody able to see this diagram here? Now, what the search engine does is whenever it reaches a particular website, right? It's basically going to make a note of that website. It is going to look at the content of that website, of that particular page. Okay, it's going to look at that content. All of this, the first block that you see, which is seeding URLs, right? So that is it. The search engine crawler reaching different websites and making a note of all of those URLs in the URL queue here. Okay. Now, whatever information it sees from these websites, it's going to start making a note of information, and all of that is stored in its database. Okay, that's what crawling means, wherein the search engine crawlers are going through each and every page on a website that is linked from somewhere, at least on the website, and whatever information it sees on the page, that information is taken by the crawlers and that's kept in the database. Now this is crawling. Now what does it do with this information, right? So the search engine, whenever it visits a page, it looks at the content of the page. So whatever relevant or related terms it finds, it picks up all of that information and stores it in its index. Okay, now let's look at what the index of the website is. I will just show you one more diagram which will make this slightly clearer. 1 minute. Is everybody able to see the diagram? Cool. Okay, so you have the web spider or the web crawler, which is nothing but these are special robots that are designed by search engines. Okay, these robots, they crawl a particular website, that is, they visit a particular website. Now, if you follow this red line, Okay. They're basically going through each and every page on the website which are related to each other, which are linked to each other. Okay. It goes through all of these pages. Okay. Now from each of these pages, whatever relevant words, relevant content it gets. So on a particular page, say the search engine is on a formal shoes page. Okay. Abhishek, we've just started with this diagram, so you've not missed anything. Okay. Yep. So I was saying that it goes through each of the pages, okay? And then when it visits each and every page, whatever information or whatever related relevant terms it gets in each of these pages, the web crawler or the search engine spider starts building a list of these words. Okay. That's the first step. Whatever list it builds or whatever relevant words or relevant content it picks up, it then starts building an index. Okay. And then all of this data that it has in the index is then encoded and this data is stored. Okay. Now let me give you one more example. Everybody has obviously read textbooks, right? Everybody has had textbooks across or throughout their academic life, right? Now, whenever you wanted to study a particular chapter, okay, for a particular subject, what is it that you referred to? Did you just randomly open the textbook and go to the chapter, or what did you refer to? That's correct, right? So the index of the textbook or the table of contents of the textbook had all the information, and you knew exactly, okay, chapter 1 starts on page 5, and that's where you need to go when you study chapter 1. That's exactly how search engine works. Okay. Now, has everybody understood what happens when search engines crawl websites and how they form the index? Has everybody understood that? Only then can we proceed of how the search results are displayed. Has everybody understood the previous diagram? Hello? Yeah. So, Somil, to answer your question, right? So, like we said, what was the basic fundamental of search engines that we just discussed 2 minutes back? What was the most basic fundamental that we said search engines have? Somil? What was the most basic fundamental of search engines? I want to answer your question, but I want to know what is it that we discussed was the most basic fundamental of search engines. Yes, but before that, what does it do? We spoke about the suburban rail network, right? Yes, Priyanka, that's right. So it follows links, right? So even on a particular website, when it is scrolling, it will follow links and reach the different internal pages on the website, right? Now, when it reaches these internal pages, whatever content or whatever related words it sees, it picks up all of words and builds an index. What is what we see here? Has everybody understood till building the index? So, Somil, to answer your question, it doesn't have a criteria to build its index. The only criteria is that whenever it visits a page, whatever content it sees on the page, from within that content, whatever related terms it sees, it will pick up these terms and form the index. Does that answer your question? Cool. I will give you one more example to make that very clear. Now let's look at this page, right? So let's see what are the kind of keywords around life insurance that have been used. Okay, so you've got life insurance, you've got life insurance. Everywhere they've used only life insurance. One second. Okay. So if you see on this particular page, right, now the keyword that we had searched for in the search engine was life insurance, right? Now if you see here, different variations of life insurance have been used. So if you see, you've got life insurance policy, you've got life insurance accounting, you've got life insurance accounts, you've got life insurance in India. Okay. Now on this particular page, if the search engine crawler has to reach, all of these terms will be related to each other. Agreed? Everybody agrees to that? These are the terms that the search engine will pick up and save in its index. So that's how search engine indexes. All of these terms are related. Life insurance policy, life insurance in India, life insurance accounting, right? So that's exactly what I meant when it goes through each of the pages on a particular website, it will pick up, or rather it will build a list of words that it finds are related to each other. Okay. So that's how it builds its index. Now let's understand how is it that the search engine gives you this result, okay, on its index. Now, as a user, you and I obviously go and type in a query, right? So just like I did right now, I go to google.co.in and I type in a query. Say I say how to, whatever you type in here in the search engine, everybody knows that's known as a search query. Everybody knows this. Now, how much time do you think it took for me to get these results? I typed in this query. How much time do you think it took me to get these results? It took me less than a second, that's right, Sham. It took me almost 1/8 of a second to get that result. Okay, now let's see how Google does it. So basically, as a user, you put in a search query, which is what we did, how to file IT returns, right? When this query is put in, there is an information that is sent from the browser to the web server, to the Google web server. Okay. Now, what Google does is Google goes through its entire index, okay, to find for terms related to how to file IT returns. Once Google goes through its entire indices, okay, from the list of whatever indexes it has stored, the information is sent back to the doc server, and from the doc server, you see the results displayed on your screen. Now, like I said, Google stores humongous amount of information in its index, okay, because it keeps crawling the web, and wherever it finds related content, related words on a particular page, it's going to build a list of these words and save them in their index, right? But while this procedure looks like a big, complete, complex procedure, Google gives you the results in 1/8 of a second. Okay, a simple question. If Google actually had to take 5 or 10 seconds to give you the result, would you have patiently waited to get the results? Exactly. So, this entire procedure that you see of Google pulling out the right results from its indices, it's done in a fraction of a second, in less than a second, in 1/8 of a second. Cool. So that was your crawling and that was your indexing. Now let's quickly look at this indexing diagram here, right? So the same diagram that I showed you right now is explained in a more detailed way here. So look at this right block, which is your search query. Okay. So search query is something that you type in the search engine. Suppose that the query is sent from the browser to the query engine or the Google web server. Okay. Now at Google or at the Google web server, this is how it is, right? So Google had crawled the HTML pages or the web pages. On these pages, Google had basically picked up words or list of words that it found relevant and formed its index. Okay. Now, when the search query is typed in the search engine and the message is sent from the browser to the search engine web server, okay, it goes and looks through its entire index here on the left hand side. Whatever you have here, it looks through its entire index, and then whatever relevant results or website it finds, that's the results that it shows in the search, or rather in this page. So any questions with respect to indexing or the previous slide, which is scrolling? Any questions here, or has everybody understood how Google shows you those results? Devarti, any specific question that you might have? Or would you want me to just read the diagram? Okay. So, have you understood this diagram, Debarti? Cool. So, we'll just do that one again. Okay, so you see the search query here, the right hand block, right? So, the search query is something that a user like me is putting in the search engine, right? The moment you put in the search query, there is a request that is sent from the browser to the search engine, or rather the query engine. Now, once this request is sent, okay, look at the index bit here. So once this request is sent, the search engine, the search query engine or the Google web server will go through its entire list of indices that it has to find content relevant to your search query. Whatever websites, whatever content it finds in its index, okay, that are relevant to your search query, those are the results that will be displayed in your Google search or in your results page. That's how the entire indexing procedure works. Is that clear? Is the flowchart clear, Debati? Okay, cool. Yeah, so Amulya, you had a question. So, Amulya, if I have to define Google indices, right? So, Google indices are basically a whole big library of information, right? So, whenever Google search crawlers visit different pages, like I said, whatever information, whatever relevant information it finds on a particular page, that's the kind of information it saves in its index. Is why what you see here in the indexing block, you have HTML pages. So HTML pages are nothing but your regular web pages that Google crawls, that the Google search engine crawls. Now, just like this life insurance example I gave you, that Google search engine crawler has crawled this page, and all of these relevant terms that you see highlighted to life insurance, right? All of these terms will be saved in Google indices. So basically, this web page will be saved in the Google indices for these key terms. Is why in this diagram, in the indexing block, you have HTML pages, and then you have the indexer and then the index file. Got it? Cool. Okay. So once the crawling is done and Google saves or builds a list of the important or relevant key terms, okay, in its indices, the next step is obviously Google will start ranking particular websites, right? So whatever you see here in the search results, now this is all of these websites that this is obviously a result of Google ranking websites, right? Because I typed in how to file IT returns, and there were so many websites that came up. Income Tax India, Bank Bazaar, Clear Tax, right? So all of these websites have come in these search results because Google has ranked them in this particular order, right? So that's the last step. So it's going to crawl websites, then it's going to build a list of words, and then it's going to build its indices, and then it will start ranking websites. Right? Now on what so Google basically has 200 plus factors that it uses to rank websites. Right? Now what are these 200 plus factors, and what is it that's part of on page, what is that part of off page? All of this is something that we'll cover over the due course of time, but this is how the most basic procedure of search engine crawlers is. So it's going to crawl websites, then it's going to build on its index, and then it will start ranking websites for particular search queries. Got it, everyone? Just to summarize the discussion that we are having, so if you see this is the web spider here, or the web crawler. It's going to crawl web pages. It's going to pick up relevant related information, store all of that in the index. All of that information is then sent to the ranking algorithms, and that's how the user gets the results. That's one procedure. And if you see, when the user types in the user query, Google obviously fetches data from Google obviously fetches data from its index, and that's how the results are displayed to the user. So this is exactly a quick summary of whatever we've understood so far about crawling, indexing, and ranking. So has everybody heard of mat cuts? Okay. Okay. So since we're since we're all learning SEO, it's worth so after the lecture today, or rather when we have the break in the next, right? I would suggest go and search for who mat cuts is, and then we will speak about this. it's worth reading about him. But for now, he's one of the biggest or the most powerful people who works in Google, and he basically heads the entire search team there, right? So on YouTube as a platform, you're going to find several videos about SEO that are by Matt Cutts. And in fact, this link that is given here, right? So when we do have the break, I would suggest you watch this video. It basically talks about the basics of SEO, your crawling, indexing, and ranking. And Matt Cutts is someone who very regularly writes and talks about SEO, considering that he works for Google and he is the head there for this search quality team. So it's his team who basically works on, trying and improving the algorithm in order to give users a better experience. Abhishek, you should be able to find the link in the material when you access your account on Digital Vidya. I'm actually not able to copy this because it's a PDF. Let me just try. Yep, you can watch this later. It's there in your notes, so you will get all of this notes in the LMS, and the link is there very much in the notes. No problem. Now let's look at what is the crawl budget. Okay. So we all said that search engine spiders crawl your website. Okay. Now what exactly is crawl budget? So basically the amount of times that the search engine crawler will crawl your website in a particular day, say, or for example, in a particular number of hours, that is known as your crawl budget. Okay. So say for example, if the website has to, if the search engine crawler has to visit your website, say once in 3 days, right? For example. So in that case, what is the average number of pages that it is going to crawl on your website is something that you will know as part of your crawl budget. So if it can crawl X number of times in a particular given time, that is known as your crawl budget. Now this tool that you see here is nothing but your search console, or it's known as the Google Webmaster Tools, which is Google's own tool. All of this crawl stats information is something that you will get in this tool for your website. Has everybody understood what a crawl budget is? So primarily number of pages that Google will crawl on your website on any given day. And all of this information is something that you will be able to see in the Google Webmaster Tools. Now, in the last lecture, when we the different tools that we use for SEO, that's when we'll also look at the Search Console. And this information that you see here is something that you will get in the Google Search Console. Sure, Shobit. So So crawl budget is something that can be defined as the number of pages, okay, that Google search crawler will crawl on your website on any given day. So while it is visiting your website, okay, and it is crawling your website, whatever number of pages it crawls, okay, that's known as your crawl budget. Got it? Cool. Now there are certain things that you would need to bear in mind, to ensure that you're optimizing your crawl budget. Now, what does optimizing crawl budget means? Basically means that whatever pages you have on your website, right? You obviously want the Google search engine crawler to crawl the maximum number of pages on your website, correct? If your website has 100 pages, you obviously want Google to crawl all those 100 pages, right? Exactly. So how will you be able to do that? You will be able to do that by optimizing your crawl budget, because crawl budget is nothing but the number of pages that the Google spider or the Google search engine crawler is crawling on your website. Right? Now, to ensure that you're utilizing your crawl budget well, these are the things or these are the pointers that you need to bear in mind and you need to take care of, right? So Flash is something that's not acceptable to search engines, is why you should avoid using Flash on your website. Okay. Then to ensure that Google crawls the maximum pages on your website, and because we know that the most basic fundamental of Google crawler is that it follows links, right? Is why you should link your pages on the website well. You should link each and every page on your website well. Okay. If there are any dead links that are present on the website, on your website, you need to fix them to ensure that they don't affect the health of your website or the hygiene of your website. And you should make use of RSS and XML feeds. Okay. And the last bit is that you need to ensure that all your pages are crawlable. That is, they are available to the search spiders and they are reachable by search engine spiders. Okay. Now, I have a question. Robin, just understand that broken links are basically dead links, okay, which is maybe a page that existed on the website previously but now doesn't exist because it has been removed or because it has been moved. So something like that gives a bad experience, right? Bad user experience. Is why, as per the Google search engine standards or as per the SEO best practices, you should not have any broken links on your website. We'll cover broken links in detail in the technical session next week. Does that give you a slight sense, Robin? Yeah. So, Avinash, how to find broken links and how to fix them is something that we'll cover in the second session, which is going to be the technical SEO. So, okay, I could come back to you with an example of Flash. Generally, gaming sites and all of these use Flash. So that's something that's not acceptable by search engines, is why you should avoid using it. I could come back to you with an example. Now, I have a question for you guys. So this last pointer that we've written, right? Make sure pages are crawlable. Okay. How will you make sure that your pages are crawlable and are available to search engines? How will you make sure of that? No, so what you all are telling me is the second step. What is the most basic step for the search engine crawler to discover a particular page? What is the most basic step? You are talking about optimization. No. So all of you are talking about detailed stuff, content, keywords, relevant content. What is the most basic? Okay, Sham, you're very close. Again, I'll give you a quick hint. It is related to the fundamental of search engines. Something that we've been focusing since we saw the suburban rail network diagram. How will you ensure that the search engine crawler reaches the internal pages on your website? We just spoke, in fact, the answer is also right on this slide as well. Yes, Priyanka, that's right. Whatever pages you have on your website, you will obviously link them to each other for search engine crawlers to reach all the internal pages. That's the most basic step. That's how you will make sure that your pages are reached by search engine spiders and they are being crawled or they are available for crawl. Got it, everybody? Yes. So, Akash, just to answer your question, internal links is what we just spoke about. To ensure that all the pages on your website are linked to each other. So, let me give you an example. Okay. Can you see this page? So on this particular website, right, this is my top navigation. Now, if you see within the top navigation also, from my home page, okay, so this is my home page. Let me see. This is the home page for Dabur Chyawanprash. Okay, now from the home page, if you see, I have links to all inner pages. You see this? All of these are known as internal links and linking different pages on my website to each other. That's known as internal links. So basically having a link from one page on a domain to another page on the same domain. That's known as internal link. Is that clear, Akash? And external links is when you get links from third party websites or from an external site to your website. So that's something that we will cover in the third session, which is off page optimization. So that's something that we'll cover there. So those are external links. Avinash, just wanted to know what is your question pertaining to? What can we call a sitemap? So while sitemaps do exist, and there are different types of sitemaps, again something that we'll cover in the second session, your internal linking of the website is different. Okay? So your sitemap is something that will include all the important pages on your website. And this internal linking is something that you do to have a strong website structure or to have a strong website hierarchy and also to allow the search engine crawlers to reach different pages on your website, to reach internal pages on your website. Got it? Cool. Hello? Cool. So, okay, so let's proceed. Okay. Yeah. So we've already spoken about this that you don't have to include Flash for the simple reason that search engines will, it's not something that's acceptable to search engines. The second, yeah. So, Shobit, and for the rest of you also, just to understand internal linking better, just look at this diagram quickly. So you've got your home page, then you've got your category pages, and then from within category pages, you've got subcategory pages, and just see how they are linked to each other. And this is exactly what makes a very strong website structure or a website hierarchy. So this is your internal links. External linking. So I think, okay. So Akash, I think you had asked a question, right, about external links. So this is how it is. This is your website, and you've got all other external websites pointing to your websites. That's known as external linking. Then making, I'm sure all of you have seen RSS feeds on different websites, right? Wherein you subscribe by email to get an update. So that was the different types of feeds. Akash, do you want an example of an external link? Okay, just allow me a minute. I'll give you an example. So that's something, Akash, that we'll cover in the third session. So I'm not getting into the details right now. I'll just give you an example to show you what an external link looks like. So if you see, this is an article that was submitted on a third-party website. You see here, you see this text that is underlined. So this is something that has been hyperlinked to the website in question. So basically, this is a backlink, or rather, this is the link back to the main website that has been built on Tumblr. So that's an example, Akash. Got it? Those will be known as social links, Amulya. So if you have a link back to your website from your Facebook page those will be accounted as social links, and the traffic that will come in from there will also be known as social traffic. Yes, that's right, Shauman. Somin. So we'll cover backlinks in detail in the third session. Now, okay, let's continue with the pointers that we were doing. So, what do you understand from this diagram, right? Again, going back to the basics of SEO, what is it that you understand from this diagram? So, what do you understand for pages B and E, and what is it that you understand for pages C and D? That's right. So if you see, yes, they are not, these are, that's correct. All of you, yes, absolutely. All of you are correct. So C and D are pages that are known as orphan pages for the simple reason that they are not linked from any other pages on the website, whereas B and E have been linked from the homepage. That's correct. So is why, okay, tell me one thing, will C, pages C and D be crawled by the search engine crawlers? Aman, that's right. Will these be crawled? Will these be reached by the search crawlers? Yeah, that's right. That's correct. Because they've not been linked. Super. Cool. Everybody has become an SEO expert already. Great. Okay. So now just the last bit. So about how is it that you would want to optimize your website for? So one is, of course, you optimize for search engines and ensure that technically your website is sound and you're doing everything that is good from a search engine standpoint or an SEO perspective. The second bit is also taking user experience into consideration. So looking at the UI and UX of your website to ensure that from a user standpoint, your website is giving them good experience. Now let's quickly recap whatever we've learned so far. So we said that the search engine has 200 plus servers where it stores humongous amount of information, right? What are the three main functions of search engines? What are the three main functions of a search engine? That's right. Okay, what is the most basic fundamental of what is the most basic fundamental of search engine crawlers? Yes. It follows links. Not just links, it follows links. True. And how does it rank web pages? Yes, it follows links, Avinash. That's right. How does it rank pages? So it crawls, it picks up and builds up a list of index. Then indexing is done and it has all the information stored in the index. And then it starts ranking. How does it rank, or rather, what are the kind of factors that you think it takes into consideration while ranking websites? That's correct. That's correct. Also, external links. Okay, so Avinash, it's actually called a website structure or a website hierarchy. It's not a tree format. Okay. So, Priyanka, don't mix up the two things. This is in general of how the search engine crawler would look at your website. Now, what you said about avoiding flash and stuff, while it is important, we spoke about it while talking about optimizing the crawl budget. So that's something that, as a fundamental, no problem. That's something that, as part of SEO, you should avoid. Cool. Great. So let's. Any questions so far, or can we proceed? Great. Okay, now, so in the second part of this session, these are the different things that we'll be covering. What are the different kind of search results? And then we'll look at the analytic search results. We'll touch base on page and off page factors, and then we'll look at the different factors that lead to that could be contributing to the SEO success for your website. Now, is everybody able to see these listings here, the ones that I've highlighted? Yes. Can everybody see this AD? That's right. So these are your paid ads. Okay. Both of these are your paid ads. You've got an AD mentioned here. Yes, that's right, Sham. Divya, are you able to see now? So these are your paid ads. Just below your paid ads, the listings that you have, right? All of these are known as organic listings. No problem. So Divya, what I did was I just typed in a query in the Google search engine. I typed in a query called formal shoes. Okay. What I see here at the top, so these are the sponsored ads by Google. If I scroll down on the page, the ad that you see here, these are known as paid ads. And what you see below the paid ads, all of these, right, starting from Myntra, all of these are known as your organic listings or natural search listings. Divya, did you get that? No, so you must, so that's not a problem. You probably are looking at google.co.in. So that's why there's a difference. It's a different search engine. But has everybody been able to see the organic listings and the paid listings? Cool. Cool. So let's proceed further.